Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be presenting on big data. So these are the agendas for the meeting which I'm gonna be discussing about. So let's go into what is big data. It is a collection of data that is huge in volume, growing exponentially with time. It is a data with so large and complexity that none of the traditional data management tools can store it or process it efficiently. Big data is also a data but with a huge size. These are extremely large data like gigabytes, terabytes, and petabytes as well. These big data comes from business transactions, customer databases, clickstream, clickstream logs, social networking, medical records, and many other sources. Next, get into three V's of big data. That is, first V is the volume, the most obvious one. If your data doesn't fit easily on the desktop or laptop disk anymore, it is difficult to store it. This is the first sign you're dealing with a big data. The second V is the variety. In big data, we have to deal with lot of varieties of data, which is basically unstructured or semi-structured data. Companies can easily deal with structured data. For example, as you can see, in social media data, messages from Twitter and Facebook are unstructured in nature. And other V is the velocity. Having all sort of data stored doesn't mean you can process the data quickly enough. Smartphones and modern cars have more sensors that provide enormous amount of data that needs to be processed and interacted on. Let's take an example of a car has a process sensor data and takes 10 seconds to take decision. It simply won't work. Like the Tesla cars, it has to process and compute it faster within seconds. So next is the IBM Maths and other V, that is veracity of data. It's an uncertainty of data. For anyone who has worked for the big companies, it's a lot of useful information available, but the quality of data can be pretty bad. So data quality costs company a lot of money. You can have a ability to store process lots of data, but data quality isn't good, your results can be incorrect. Next, these are some examples of big data. First example is Amazon, Netflix, and Spotify uses recommendation engines to recommend customers new articles, movies, or music as well. These companies collect data from customers to make prediction on whether you will like certain product or not. This requires lot of memory and processing power. As you can see, Spotify is a heavy user of Hadoop. The next example is apps like Uber and Helio uses sensor data and geodata. This is a very good example of velocity. Geodata is sent by cell phones to Uber or Hello servers that needs to be processed within milliseconds to make the application work. Geodata is sent from taxi drivers to customer who are seeing taxis on app. When customer decides to order taxis, the closest taxi needs to be found and contacted. The taxi accepts the fastest route to the customer has to calculate and update constantly. Both companies have distributed systems in place to handle this kind of data. And next example is Google Now and Apple Siri has the ability to process voice, quickly process and interpret voice data. The type of algorithm they use is called deep learning. The algorithm also gets restrained constantly using new data to make algorithm better at predicting what words you are saying. The next is the Tesla Autopilot uses sensors and image processing. So this is an example. This is a Tesla cars is basically an example of unstructured data. The camera data is interpreted to create a computer vision. The camera and sensors in Tesla can interpret traffic signs and lane markings as well. Next example is New York Stock Exchange and Bloomberg process lot of financial data. Trades generated generates every day is into terabytes data. They generate terabytes of data each day in trades as well. Next is the intelligent agencies uses graph data, gathering and processing lots of data. Some big data tools are even open sourced by NSA as well. The most common example of intelligent agency is a graph data. Let's take an example over here, like modeling friends in Facebook. As you can see, person A has friend B and B has friend C. The graph data can give you insight and how people are connected to each other. Next is the challenges in big data. Big data comes with problems. Since data sets are huge, you need to find a way to store them as efficiently as possible. Not just talking about efficiency in terms of storing space, but efficiency in storing the data, and that is suitable for computation as well. You have another problem you should worry about when you deal with big data sets is about data loss due to corruption or hardware failure. You need to have a proper recovery system. The next is then the most important one is the cost challenge. You are going to need a lot of storage space and a lot of computation power, so your solution that you should plan to use should be very cost effective. Next is the business applications in various sectors, for example, in the healthcare sector, where you can see traditionally the healthcare industry lagged in using big data because of limited ability to standardize and consolidate data. By mapping healthcare data with geographical data sets, it's possible to predict diseases that will escalate in specific areas. Based on predictions, it's easier to strategize diagnostics and plan for stocking serums and vaccines. Like you have seen in the recent corona times, the stocking serums and vaccines. The big data application in manufacturing unit has many benefits in it, like defect tracking, supply planning, manufacturing process defect tracking, output forecasting, increases energy efficiency, testing and simulation of new manufacturing processes, supports for mass customization of manufacturing. Next, the business application in media and entertainment industry has great benefits on it, like predicting what customer wants, scheduling optimization, ad targeting, content monetization, and new product development, and some more. Next is big data application in Internet of Things, where data extracted from Internet of Things devices provides a mapping of devices, that is interconnectivity of each devices. Such mapping have used in various companies and government to increase efficiency. Internet of Things is also increasingly adopted as a means of gathering sensory data. This sensory data is used in medical and manufacturing context as well. Next is I've taken an example of US government, how the big data is used in various domains as well. Let's take some of the domains in which big data is used, like cyber security and intelligence, crime prediction and prevention, pharmaceutical drug evaluation, scientific research, weather forecasting, tax compliance, and traffic optimization as well. Now let's get into big data architecture. Uh, Big data architecture is a system used to injection, storing, and processing vast amount of data. You can call it as big data that can be analyzed for business gains. Basically, you can say it's a blueprint of business data solutions based on requirements and infrastructure of business organization. It helps to predict future trends and improve decision making. Next is data storage. Data source governs big data architecture. Like data arrives through multiple sources, including RDBMS, rational databases, sensors, company servers, Internet of Things devices, static files generated from apps such as window logs, third party data providers, etc. This data can be batch data or real time data. Next is the data storage. It is a receiving end of the big data. Data storage receives data of varying formats from multiple data sources and stores them. Like, it can change the format of the data received from the data source depending on the system requirements. For example, we can say big data architecture stores unstructured data in distributed file storage systems like Hadoop, Hadoop, and or the NoSQL data. It stores structured data in RDBMS. The next is batch processing. Requires the batch processing requires a processing system for filtering all the data, aggregating and processing data, which is huge in size for advanced analytics. Like generally, a long running batch jobs that involves reading the data from data storage, processing it, writing output to the new files. The most commonly used is the Apache Spark. Streaming data, it's basically a live data. These processing handles all the streaming data which occurs in windows or streams. It then writes data to output sync. The next is data storage. After processing data, we need to bring data into one place so that we can accomplish an analysis of the entire data set. The analytical data store is important and it stores all our process data at one place, making analysis comprehensive. It can be relational databases or the cloud based data warehouse depending on our requirements. The next is analytics and reporting. After ingestion and processing data from varying data sources, we require a tool for analyzing data. For this, there are many data analytics and visualization tools that analyze the data and generate reports. Companies use this reports, like they make reports for making data driven decisions as well. Next is orchestration. This is like ingestion data, transforming data, moving data in branches, streaming processes, and loading it into analytical data storage, and then analyzing it to to derive insight. Must be This is a repetitive workflow. This allows us to continuously gain insight from our big data. Next, there's a difference
Can,
between
can you can you wait on to the previous slide? I need to add a couple of things.
yeah.
So typically this what we call is a lambda architecture. Now, if you're really looking at most of the data which is there available around you, it can be structured, it can be semi-structured, or it can be highly unstructured. Now, structured is typically your database, and semi-structured could end up being files like in JSON, text, or what we're taking. And unstructured is completely the data which is coming from Facebook, Twitter, and those kind of things. So, what the scenario here in big data is that you actually have data which is coming from multiple sources, multiple types, and the variety of these can be very very different. So, going back to the three V's or four V's, those that actually really constitute what the big data really means. That's one thing you need to understand. And coming on to a lambda architecture, in any data driven architecture, you're going to find two types of inputs from a data. Like one is the data which is coming. Well, let's say you're doing for the first time, you're going to go get all the historical data, and that historical data will actually go through the batch process. So, and then eventually they'll get pushed into the analytical data storage. That's where you're going to do all your data science piece of, your algorithms and all that stuff. Real-time messaging is going to be more from the streaming data. So typically things coming from the IoT or new data coming from the database, or let's say new record that we've added in the database, that is all going to be a part of the real time. and then eventually then you're going to do this stream processing ideally is end up being like a in memory kind of a thing. And the general idea of supporting real time and streaming is the idea, is the intent to do things on the fly. So this is again a very different category of the way we do the data, and the tools technology stack kind of changes because this ideally goes into the in-memory piece of it. So if you really look at data science per se or analytics standpoint of view, there are two types of it. One is that you're going to run data science algorithms around the historical data which is coming, and second is probably you want to do edge-based computing or something which is coming from a stream, from a stream processing or IoT based devices. Typically you would want to kind of take the data and then decide what you want to do. And the last piece on the right hand side is the analytics and reporting. So I'm going to take a pause out here. I'm going to look within ABFL, have you come across a scenario where you found both this kind of data? I know it's morning, and I know people are just trying to react to things, or even from ICICI. What is the kind of data you've seen? Do you think ICICI contributes in a direction of being a big data, or yes or no? What's your take, Soham, out here?
In ICICI, mostly data is like traditional. It's all
Can you
structured.
speak up, Soham? I can barely hear you.
Sure. One second. Yeah. Is it audible now? Hello?
Yeah, kind of. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in ICICI, mostly the tables are structured. We have structured data and stored in lot of tables. So far, we have not seen any unstructured data. Although there are a couple of columns which are like binary blobs and all, but we are still exploring whether are they really used for the application and how they are used.
Okay.
And
No,
in EBFL, I guess there is scope of big data because we have tables like for Paytm reports. We are sending, I think, 175 or 157 columns of data, and there are uploads as well. So when a customer uploads his documents and all, that is also going to the S3 and then eventually to the Dynamo. So yeah, we kind of say that in ABFL there can be a scope. I'm not sure it is right now, but there can be.
yeah. I mean, so I'm just trying to basically, get your thinking going in a direction that whenever you see an architecture which is Lambda by nature, where you have batch and stream processing both. So that's what theoretically becomes a Lambda architecture, and Lambda architecture has been around for a very very long time, and that constitutes a big data architecture. I mean, theoretically and traditionally speaking, most big data architecture will tend to be in this area, data storage plus you'll see real-time messaging as a block, and the technologies around that again will be similar or different, largely driven by Apache stack. If you kind of get into the real-time messaging injection, we may end up using Apache Kafka,
Kafka.
data storage, batch storage, batch processing, etc. We see for the analytic and to run the ETL-based algorithms, I'm going to end up using Apache Spark, or some variant of Spark like Databricks is there, those kind of things. And for the core data science piece, it again depends because that's where all the GPU and all of that kind of comes in. You may end up using Python, but some people end up using MATLAB or something of that sort. And then eventually on the right hand side you have Power BI or those kind of thing. So you really have to think in terms of the minute you see this kind of archetype or this kind of block, you know exactly there is big data. And orchestration is more kind of bringing all of it together.
like the workflow.
Correct. So it's like bringing the whole thing together. There's a suite of tech tax for that and etc. and all of that. Anyway, Akhil, you can continue.
Yes, yes. Just I'm going to be giving traditional versus a big data, how it is does. The first parameter, which includes volume. Traditional data is smaller, like the customer or the student profile, which will be in gigabytes. Whereas in big data, huge insights, constantly updating, uh, like you can say in terabytes, petabytes, and it can go on. And the second parameter is the generation rate. The traditional data is generated as the business progresses, which will be in per hour per day basis. But in big data is so rapid generation from various sources like business processes, network, social media sites, etc. In Facebook, where data generation by comments, likes from multiple users. This is like for every second, for every millisecond, also the data is generated in it. The third parameter is the structure. The traditional data is always organized in particular formats, whereas the big data are semi-structured or completely unstructured data. The next parameter is the data source. Traditional data stored on centralized database, whereas big data is distributed across clusters of computers. The next is the data integration. As traditional data is in the proper format, so integration becomes easy. For example, if data in Excel files that can be easily integrated, but in big data is totally unstructured, no common format, and distributed, so it becomes very difficult. The next parameter is the data store. Traditional data uses rational data base management system, that is RDBMS, whereas big data uses new technology like HDFS, Hadoop, and Polybase as well. The next parameter is the access. In in traditional, it is interactive. When queries fire at it, it gives output. In big data, data coming from various sources, algor analytical algorithm works on it and shows static during runtime. For example, in Facebook, if you if you like if you like a photo and the likes and in real time that like count is updated automatically and shown in the result. The next parameter is the update scenario. It is repeatedly read and write in case of traditional data, whereas in case of big data it only write once and multiple copies are created and then repeatedly accessed by multiple users. The next data is the structure. The traditional data uses static schema, means you cannot change it, but in big data uses dynamic schema, you can change, there is no form in it. The next parameter, this is the most important one, that is the scaling potential. The traditional data is non-linear in nature, but in big data, somewhat close to linear because you can scale up.
So I think this is a very important slide. It's just taking the whole conversation from the last slide to a more detailed understanding as to how do I identify, traditional versus big data. So if I take a standard warehouse, it's very clear. Its generation is actually happening per hour per day. It is highly structured in nature. It's centralized. It's easy. RDB. I mean, you can see the parameter, the pivot in terms of all the comparison it's actually made. It's very evident to kind of go ahead and find out that in any conversation which is traditional, which is big data, and the things like your static versus the dynamic schema. That's a very important point because the that's where the whole unstructured schema comes in, because I really don't know what's really going to come down in from a structure standpoint of view, maybe in a Facebook or Twitter. I mean, for all practical purpose, you may take it as text, but then there are situations where the data which is coming from these unstructured sources, it could be variable. The structure, whatever semi-structure it may have, it's going to be very difficult to understand. So we are expecting the platform in general to have the ability to have a dynamic schema. So today you start off with like in like a table with in 3 fields. Tomorrow it can be 10, it can be 20, it can be 400. So again, so you have to understand the difference out here is really important. And if you worked on any specific NoSQL data, typical NoSQL databases like you can take what Azure Cosmos is there. So most of these NoSQL database tend to already move into an area where things are very dynamic by nature, and their ability to handle any kind of data becomes a lot more easier. And the last point in terms of the scaling potential is somewhat close to linear. So it's like as and when the volume increases, that you can keep scaling it. So it's like if you've seen any linear graph, it's like it keeps increasing with or falls for, continues to take a very linear path, and from a scaling standpoint of view. Now, that being said, this is an important slide, and you will need to keep coming back to this again and again whenever there's a conversation to really understand the traditional versus big data, and even to classify that is this a big data project or not. Continue,
Yeah.
Akhil.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the
Uh,
last V? I just forgot. There is volume, veracity, velocity, and what was the last V
it's
in big data?
it's volume, variety, velocity, and
And
veracity.
Yeah, veracity.
Veracity.
There is a variety and there is veracity. Okay. Yeah. Continue.
So, yeah. Next is big data uses Polybase to deal with large amount of data. Polybase is one of the tools which they use. Um, Polybase is a technology that accesses data outside of the database via TSQL language. In SQL Server 2016, it allows you to run queries on external data in Hadoop or to export data from Azure Block Storage. Here is an example where you can see the user here who is sending queries and utilizing the Polybase. We can interact with Hadoop platform or Azure Block Storage and retain data as well. Data is outside the database that we have internally. So this is a great benefit here that we can access through this technology over here. And next comes the advantages of using.
I just want to pause. Can you go back? So if you logically thinking, the whole concept of big data is around one of the key point we talked about, the dynamic schema. So take an example. Now you have JSON files, the structure keeps changing. And if you were to kind of create a table on that, how complicated would it be? It's not going to be simple, because the structure keeps changing from time to time, right? Now, up till now, traditionally, SQL has been a very structured database side of tech. I mean, there you have a table, you have definition of the table, you write a stored procedure, and all we continue to live happily in a very traditional world. But when you actually kind of get into an area where you're dealing with a lot of unstructured data, SQL just can't make the cut. So Microsoft really, started putting a lot of effort in terms of, coming out with their own set of tools and tech, etc., and extending SQL to really support, Hadoop-based constructs. Largely, what I'm saying is unstructured data, or schema-less data, or something which is a dynamic schema by nature, and all the all the pivot comparison that we actually saw on the previous deck. So somewhere in the in 2014 2015, Microsoft teams, the SQL Server teams, typically started realizing that we need to start thinking of a direction of supporting Hadoop and or big data base data types or projects into our SQL Server. And that is the reason they started working, and then they came out with this concept of Polybase, and that's how it kind of works. And if you really look at this diagram, Polybase kind of works across Hadoop and Azure Blob Storage. And the idea is that you end up using the same SQL interface, the same SSMS, etc., whatever you're using, to end up creating those big data entities. So the question I'm going to have more to Soham, Barkha, and Prasad. Does this slide make sense to you? Is it connecting where Polybase really fits in? Because you guys being the database side of people, I expect your slightly more participation on from here onwards. I mean, because this is where things are going to get interesting for you. Barka, Prasad. Som.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it is interesting, kind of like how, seeing how we can use Hadoop into SQL Server, like in order to distribute the data in terms of storing and computing it.
Okay. What about you, Barka and Prasad? Does this slide connect with you? Does it make any sense?
Yes, Ajay.
Okay. So we can continue, Akhil.
Yeah. Next is the advantage of using SQL Polybase. We can use SQL Polybase to query Hadoop data, which is outside our server by using TSQL. Whereas, as you can see, the Hadoop uses Java language to access them. But we can use Polybase with TSQL language to access Hadoop as well. And this is the great advantage of Polybase over here. Without using Java programming, we can directly access with TSQL by using Polybase. So here we can also query data stored in Azure Blob Storage and Hadoop as well. No need for a separate ETL or an import tool. This is a great benefit. Also, primarily, we have to write SSIH package to import export data, but no longer we have a direct connection to the Azure Blob Storage over here. And next is the use of a Polybase with business intelligence as well. So yeah, that's it. And these are the pricing in which we have the different versions available in SQL Server, and pricing for the each server if we wanted to upgrade or which we want to introduce in our organization as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
So, so this session is more of an introduction. We're going to have a follow-up session, which is going to be a deep dive into Polybase. There'll be one to three sessions, which which more like walking into Polybase, working around Polybase, and how do I take unstructured data, the entire works. So this was more to kind of give you the flavor of what big data is all about. Slowly introduce the concept of Polybase, and then eventually kind of follow it up with the next step. So I think with that being said, thank you, Akhil. Thank you, everybody. This session is already recorded. So if you guys want to kind of refer back, we'll be hosting it somewhere at the company library, and in maybe in this week and the early next week, we will be having a deep dive session on Polybase.
Okay.
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.